So now we're down in the Olveston area, and just looking up on the sign here that tells us we're into Zone B. The areas in Zone B are Isles Bay, Belham, Waterworks, Lower Happy Hill, and parts of Old Town. Now, as we just come around this corner, we should get a very dramatic view of the volcano. Yes, that's the Sofria Hills volcano, still emitting fumes and gases, sulfuric gases. The volcano has been fairly quiet, still active, but still fairly quiet in the past several years. We haven't had any eruptions. The Montserrat Volcano Observatory puts out its regular updates on what's happening in, with, and to the volcano, and what's happening regarding Montserrat, how the volcanic activity is affecting Montserrat. Not really any significant effects as such to speak of in the past several years, but as you can see, what you're looking at there are not necessarily clouds. That's the emission of steam and gases and whatever sulfuric substances an active volcano continues to emit. Parts of this, which is more the western flank of the volcano, is getting quite green again. Now, I'm no volcanologist, but I know it's been raining quite a lot in Montserrat, and if you see how green and tropical and verdant the island looks. But all that heat inside the volcano, you would have expected, a novice like me, that the whole structure of the hill of the volcano would be brown, but it's not. It's actually, at least this part of it is actually quite green. Where you can see the brown beds, brown slope, that's the pyroclastic outflow, or the remnants of the pyroclastic outflow, the tons and tons and tons of ash and debris and massive boulders and everything that came out of the volcano, so cascaded down the mountainside, swerved around by St. George's Hill, coming down the volcano, swerved around St. George's Hill, headed towards Plymouth, sort of slammed into Plymouth on several occasions, over and over again. So basically, Plymouth didn't stand a chance. So where we are now, we are actually driving in the riverbed of the Bellum River. As we traverse up the Bellum River valley, the bed of the Bellum River, the sign that we saw back there that warned of the risk of flooding is that when it rains, the water really gushes down through this area. The soil itself, it's a bit compacted, but it's quite loose, and bear in mind that what we're looking at here, straight ahead, and this is where the link comes in, what we're looking at here, this is a sand and aggregate mining operation. And what they're doing, they're mining, refining, processing the aggregate and the sand that came out of the volcano. So the sand here is fairly loose. It blows up quite easily when the wind picks up. So therefore, when it rains, it floods quite easily. And for a vehicle such as this one, it's almost impossible to drive here. You'll tend to get stuck very quickly. We're just about getting away with it, as it were, because it's pretty dry. And that's another reason why on the road trips you've been noticing some people have been very observant, noticing the number of four-wheel drive vehicles in Montserrat, particularly for the north, even given that the northern area is quite hilly as compared to the southern evacuated area. Northern area, the topography is quite different. Reason for that, I'm not a geologist, but there was a previous volcanic eruption many years ago, hundreds of years ago, about 600 years ago, I've been told. And as a result of that, this is the sand mining operation, as a result of that, the soil, because of the volcanic composition of the soil on the southern part of the island, and it's getting very dusty in the car right now, the soil on the southern part of the island, as a result, was very fertile. So the southern part of the island, the land was very arable, so most of the farming was done in the southern part of the island and the eastern part of the island, and that is as a result of volcanic eruptions we've had several years ago, or many years ago. So basically, in those areas we were actually living, that part of Montserrat was built up on the top of a pyroclastic flow from all those years ago. The northern part of the island has not been that affected. Sofria Hills is a dormant, an absolutely dormant volcano, we've been assured, but the topography of the north is completely different. It's very hilly, and people who are building houses there tend to build either on the ridge of the hills or on the side of the hills. In Montserrat, when we say a hillside, we are actually referring to a cliff, but we're talking about on the slope of the hills. So that's basically the difference between how Montserrat is laid out. The southern part of the island more arable, and the northern part of the island quite the opposite. Even though there have been, and especially now because so many people have had to relocate to the northern part of the island, there's quite a number of small agricultural holdings for different types of crops, to the extent that in some crops Montserrat is very close to being self-sufficient. So as the saying goes, you get lemons, volcano, you make lemonade in your various survival modes. So we are on our way out of the Bellum River Valley. What we'll do, because straight ahead of us, just before we come out of here, this area led to the very famous Montserrat golf course. I think it was an 18-hole golf course. The golf course was nestled between Olveston Old Town, where we just came from, and Isles Bay. And I'll position the car, Isles Bay Hill, another upscale residential area. So as I come around, so what we're looking at here is Isles Bay Hill. We are not seeing the residential bits of it because that's more on the other side. So we'll take a drive through, and I'll try to position the car that we can also get a view so that you can see what is left of the Montserrat golf course. If you are familiar with the term COPS, which is spelled C-O-P-S-E, if I'm correct, which means a cluster of trees, not quite a forest, that is what the Bellum Valley golf course has now become. Because the land there and a different type of vegetation and trees have grown up in that area. Because it was a golf course, the land on which the golf course was built was properly maintained, the lawn or the grass well cut. So the trees that have grown up there now is a particular type of tree. I really don't know the name, but you have so many of them that have basically taken over the golf course. More like fir trees, that type of plant or that type of tree. So we're into Isles Bay Hill. and we'll just take a drive through. We can drive down as far as the beach. But many of the property owners in this area left for two reasons. A, the Bellum River Valley, the risk and the experience of the pyroclastic flow coming down through there, which cut off access into and out of this area, and also the ash fallout from the volcano, which caused a great degree of problems for the residents, having to be constantly cleaning away ash. So this bit of road in Isles Bay takes us down to the beach. See some of the still very well kept properties and gardens in this area. So Isles Bay Beach, as I said a while back, is still accessible. They've just recently built a yacht club in this area. You still have a few yachts that come and anchor in the bay. So as you can see, there are cars and people here. So Isles Bay Beach becoming popular once again. I'm just going to position the car and just get a camera view of some of the properties on the side of the hill. There you go. That's just an example of what obtains on Isles Bay Hill. The roundabout here, nicely kept roundabout garden. So we are coming out of Isles Bay Hill, and I'll speak with you next when we are coming through Olveston Old Town area.